The basic idea of checkerboarding is to do it before swarming mode comes into being. Once they start into swarming mode, there's almost nothing you can do to stop it. So,
not like that.
By stopping the swarming, if we're able to stop the swarming, we get two results. One, we get a load of honeybees. Okay? If you have one hive with 30,000, one hive with 30,000, those two hives will not make as much honey as another hive that has 60,000. Okay? So the idea is to build up your population to a really strong mode. That also helps prevent pests and disease, because the stronger the hive is, the less likely they're going to be invaded by hive beetles and varroa and whatever. So we want really strong hives, and as a fact of having a good, big, strong hive, we're going to have a whole lot more honey production. Okay? So you want to do checkerboarding before they get into swarm mode. So ideally it should have been like a week or more ago, but weather wasn't cooperating with us then, so we're doing it now. This hive, I haven't opened up any of these hives this year, so it's all going to be a surprise to us. But the hives, like this second one, you see there's a divider in between those two. That's just the inner cover. The top is empty. I was just using that to put a feeder jar in there. The single deeps were nukes that I started last summer, so they weren't really a lot of stores yet. So I was feeding them a little more during the winter rather than just the open feeder. The open feeder feeds them when they have decent weather. If you've got a hive that's low on food or population, you have to feed it like I'm doing here, so that they don't get stuck in the hive and run out of these hives. If there's a lot of brood and stores in here, I'll be putting a third deep on this. And a month from now, I could make possibly 4 splits besides keeping the original. So if you
come on down, dude.
It's a little free. Don't worry about putting it all the way down.
I would say hers is small.
I'm zoomed in on that. You can get closer.
Okay, well, I'm going to put this in the observer anyway.
No, it's not.
Oh, Lord.
Those are beetles.
Bugs in there. Look at those. Are those hive beetles?
No, ladybugs.
Oh, okay.
Ladybugs.
A little bit.
Gary, you
The rock there, what?
Yeah, I give ventilation to my bees all year round. Some people...
Try to get a little closer. There.
Anytime you see a cluster of bees, always take a look, make sure the queen's not there. Not likely in the top cover,
See them thinning out.
but everything is possible with these bees.
They'll recluster if there's a queen there real quick,
So, all right, let me sit
because
this
they'll
over.
protect her. Be sure and set the top cover where you can trip over it.
That's a given.
Yes. Come on now. Oh, it won't pick it up.
When I open my hives,
No, with
I usually
Your fingers
open
out.
the
I know.
opposite
Can you
put that
side
button right
from
there?
where I'm
The picture
standing.
button right there.
Right.
All right.
That's it right there?
sense.
Yep.
Okay.
This
you.
way, any bees that fly out that might
Yep,
be
that's
the
the
small hive bee.
Yeah. Wow, my goodness.
Those bottom boards that I got from, gosh, I can't think of his name now.
Charlie?
Huh?
Luke?
Curtis?
Curtis. Pretty well put an end to the small hive beetles
All right, why is that, Gary?
because they can't get up inside. And they have to go outside to, they molt and reproduce in the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
So when they hatch, they try to get back in, they can't get back in.
See, now, one of the things that I've read is that having fire ants close to your hive
Yeah.
will kill the
The beetles.
beetle grubs when they go into the ground. But apparently that's not working out too well.
They got fire ants in.
Yeah.
And the beetle
All right.
trap didn't work real well. Is it out of? It's got oil in it.
It's loaded with beetles in there. I use mineral oil in my traps. Hollis, see if there's any more of these traps in there. This is not one of the refillable ones. Okay, they do make these that you can pull the top off. I think I have some of them.
Yeah.
All right.
I tried one of those beetle jails at last year's Clanton that you screw on the front, and it's got a little entrance where the hive beetles should drop down in, and the bees climb over, and it's done nothing at all.
It doesn't work.
It was $30 down the pan.
Yeah. Now propolis, most of you don't know this, but propolis is a very potent medicine. And I take fresh propolis out of the hive, put it in my freezer, grind it up, and put it into capsules. Propolis is a antibacterial product, it's antiviral, it's antifungal.
Scraping off right here.
So this is
Yeah,
the
it's bee
propolis.
epoxy.
Yeah, the bees use propolis
Got a big
as
lot of it
a
right there.
caulking. Okay. All right, maybe get out of my way. Almost dead. All right. Propolis is used mostly as a caulking to chink up the cracks, fill up spaces that are too small to put comb or too small to use as a passageway. I've read that sometimes you'll get a mouse coming into a hive, bees can sting it to death, and then they absolutely encapsulate the mouse with propolis so that the mouse does not turn into a viral infection in the hive.
Gracious. How do you purify your propolis before you take it?
I don't. I just take clean as I can. There's nothing in the hive that can hurt you. All right, normally during the summer I only clean off any propolis that I need to get off. See, like there's propolis along the edges here, and I only clean it as necessary because the bees are going to replace it if you take it out, and it's just using up their time and energy. So I don't bother taking off more than I need to.
Okay.
All right, now let's get an empty hive over here. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames here, and let me get the And the same as when I'm lifting the cover, I always put the frame holder on the opposite side, because you don't want them falling on your ankles and crawling up your pants. So we'll start here with this
And
outside
yes, they
frame.
will. Talk about ankle biters.
Yeah.
Alright, now, always try to be as careful as you can when you're taking out this first frame, because if the queen is against the wall and you crush her, that's not a good thing. Alright, we've got brood coming in here. You see right in the center,
Yeah.
they've got brood that's not capped yet. There's no capped brood on this side of the frame at all yet. And I don't see the queen. And we got loads of...
Do you mark your queens, Ralph?
No.
Different color, but it's not long enough.
Only when I buy a queen do I get it marked. And that's so I can keep an eye on it and see what happens to it without much trouble finding her every time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times when you buy queens, the bees don't like them and they will supersede her.
Right.
And remember, supersedure is different from swarm cells. Supersedure is when the bees do not like the queen they have, or they don't have a queen. Swarming is when they're planning to. Now this one is full of capped brood. That's a good thing, yes.
That means he's going to have a bunch of bee babies real soon.
Yeah.
So we are getting to the swarming mode very soon here.
Would all that brood have been just this year, Ralph? Just since the new year?
This is within the last few weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Wow. They've been busy. Busy
No,
bees.
brood doesn't overwinter.
Right.
Okay. Finding the queen is nice to be able to do, but it's not absolutely necessary. If you can see, you've got young eggs and brood and everybody in there. Here's the queen.
Yep.
All right. Point your finger at her, Gary.
I see her, I think.
What
right
point
right
were
near
you
the
think?
top.
Is that it?
That's it, right there.
Right
exactly.
there.
You got it.
You nailed her.
That's the queen.
Yes,
Everybody
it is.
see her?
No.
I
Point
watched
it.
a lot of Nature Channel. No.
Here she is, right there.
She
See the extra long abdomen on her?
and she just looks different than all the rest.
Right.
Okay, well, that's fine. I
Yeah.
can see that.
So that's our queen now. I'm going to leave her, well, it doesn't matter since we're checkerboarding, but I'm not taking her out of the hive. I'm not going to put her on the frame there.
One on your finger there.
Yeah, these damn beetles. Did you find any more of those beetle traps in there?
There's another one.
Okay. All right, so now let's see what kind of stores we have here.
Blue.
Now they've got
Not much,
They've got some here.
but they have started making honey.
That's honey.
All right.
Yeah.
So this is going to go over here. Now, these are called 10 frame hives. You can fit 10 frames in these boxes.
You won't be happy if
But-
you do.
The first boxes that I got, somebody said you need to have 9 frames instead of 10, and I didn't know anything about bees, and so I did 9 frames. And I'm glad I did, because it makes
Maintenance.
it makes maintenance easier. It makes it makes inspecting the bees easier. On the supers that you put above these, it makes easier to extract the honey because the bees will build out the comb a little bit farther each time. And by building the comb out, you can slice off the cappings much easier.
Okay. So in the supers, you have the gaps between each frame of the 9, do you? Rather than at one end, or they're sort of...
Well, you can get these frame separators.
They have these metal
And they're cheap.
frame separators that you nail into place in here.
All
Or
right.
set them down with super glue.
Yeah.
Not
yeah.
super glue, but Gorilla Glue.
Okay, what's that one you're moving there? Is that honey?
Yes, this one has honey.
Okay, so I have
It has honey on
And
both sides.
on both
Yeah,
sides.
that's good.
Okay, so over on the other side, you've got a honey, then the queen.
Honey, the queen,
Then honey.
empty.
Oh, empty.
That's brood.
This is checkerboarding now.
Yeah.
So we got honey, brood, empty, brood, and I'm going to have empty, brood again.
Right.
Give me that hand. All right.
You'll notice these are very gentle bees here,
Yeah.
which is a very good sign. And that's, all right, see now here we've got
Honey and brood.
fresh honey, and they've got old honey and pollen in there. So,
I didn't see any peanuts either.
no, there's no queen cells yet. Next month, about 4 weeks from today, I'll be doing another demo at my apiary down in Lineville. And then we're going to be doing splits because there should be queen cells by then. Alright, so now we take this frame of brood. Tell you what, let me, instead of struggling, going really slow, let me make some room so I don't hurt anybody. I want to have brood, empty frame. Oh wait, that's a... Does this frame look different?
It's old wax.
Old. Yeah,
Besides
look at
that-
the size of the cell.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a drone
See,
cell?
this is a drone frame.
Ah, right.
And like I was saying at the meeting, we want drone frames
With those new queens.
when we get our new queens. We want to saturate the mating area with our nice expensive queens. Okay, that one goes there. And then this one will go.
Whoa.
When I get my bulldozer fixed, I'm going to be moving all my hives over there. And it's going to be a nice level area instead of
Instead
this
of on the hill.
hill, yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm not leaving it in there. I want an empty frame to go in there.
So those are old wax frames you have left over from last year.
Yeah.
Or year before.
Did you freeze them? How did you keep it?
Yeah, I put them in the freezer for like 2 days.
Right.
And then I put them in a box that's sealed up.
Yeah. Hermetically
I
sealed.
put them into a
Yeah.
regular box,
After you froze.
and I sprinkle a heavy layer of cinnamon on the cement floor. Then I put the box directly on that cinnamon, and then when I add more boxes to it, I make sure there's no openings.
Right.
And I sprinkle cinnamon all around the edges of each box that I stack on top of each other.
Right.
And so far, the wax moths haven't gotten into them. Now in the winter you won't have problems with wax moths. All right, so there we're checkerboarded, all right? We have honey, brood, empty. Honey, no, not honey.
That's empty.
Okay, that's empty. Brood, empty, brood, empty. What do I get, 2 empties together?
No, I think one of them had honey on it, but I won't swear to it.
You got 2 there.
I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah, all right. That goes over. Now
that box is done.
this box is going to go on the bottom.
Right.
There's the queen cell.
And let's see. This is one of those
Those strips.
rags, what do you call them?
Like
Swiffer.
Yeah, Swiffer thing. Does it work? Does that
The
look
bees tore it apart and threw out most of it. Just throw it in the
Little
trailer.
tinkers.
And
It's
the mites are
trash.
running wild.
And the mites win, the Swiffer zero.
Yeah.
And that's the medicine stuff there, more of that?
No,
No,
That's wax.
No?
the,
Oh, okay.
the difference between propolis and burrcomb, you see they try to make cells, but there's really not enough room to make cells.
Okay.
So you can tell the wax from the propolis because the wax always has the beginnings of cells.
I didn't immediately see the visual difference that told you this was a drone frame. What
the size of the cell.
The,
the size of the cell? Okay.
Here's a regular cell.
Yeah, those are that's fine and that's coarse. I got you. Okay.
Okay.
Here's the rest of it.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't like that. Look at the beetles.
This can be one of those beetles.
One of the things they
cells are
say
noticeably
is
larger than the other one if you compare them.
one of the things they say is to keep your hives in full sun to help control the beetles.
Yeah.
In the hive.
Apparently that doesn't work too well.
Yeah, these are in full sun, that's for sure.
There was a, on YouTube, there was a video of people using CD cases.
I just bought a package of those and I intend to try that.
Are you going to do the Crisco and the, what was it, boric acid?
Yes, yeah.
Ralph, are you doing that?
Wait, inside the CD?
Inside the CD.
Yeah.
Yeah, boric acid,
And Crisco.
Crisco, and something else. I forget what the third thing was. Oh, a touch of honey just to.
Oh, okay. To attract them.
Yep.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Well, give that a go.
Yeah.
Use a Celine Dion CD case. That would
Inside a CD?
The case.
In the case, yeah. The
Oh,
little,
the
little,
jewel cases?
yeah, the narrow ones. Sometimes
Yeah.
you get a really narrow, thin one.
I've got a box of them at home that I just bought. We'll take a look at it when I go back.
Ralph, do you do anything to your carpet underneath there after you cut it down? Do you saturate with salt or?
Well,
Or-
before I put it down,
Yeah.
I saturate with the powder. What is it? Diatomaceous earth.
Yeah.
I put a heavy layer of that stuff on here.
Right. But then the next year, like now, you don't redo anything like that?
No, I
No?
haven't. No.
Have you ever, I've never heard anybody say anything about salt. You know how salt kills whatever's on the ground, like weeds and things.
Yeah.
Would salt work underneath there and not hurt the bees?
It won't hurt the bees for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll do anything for the.
Well, I just mean for the earth so that they wouldn't fall down there and their larvae might kill them.
All right, so here we just have empty frames, and
And you're switching them because these go up, right?
right now,
And the full one was on top.
yeah, during the winter they usually eat the stores that they have up above them.
Right.
All right, now let me pull out one or two of these frames just to see what they look like. Here's a starter cell that they started at some time and then never used. Well, except for the beetles. Did you find an empty beetle trap in there?
No, sir.
Alright, I'll have to come back later. I've got some in my bee house. I made the barn into a bee house
Oh, right.
after I got rid of all the little goats. Okay,
Now you've got 2 frames left over there that have bees on them, don't you?
that I'm going to save
I should.
for the other hive.
Okay.
It's got a little bit of honey on it,
Uh-huh.
just in case the other hive doesn't have.
And then didn't you put one down in there too?
Yeah,
Work on that.
They jump.
That one has honey on it too. I guess I can leave the bees here though,
Oh, okay.
And the beetles.
and the beetles.
Now, what are the beetles after in there?
They lay their eggs in there. The eggs hatch into larvae, little tiny worms. The worms eat the honey, the pollen, even the wax maybe, I don't know for sure. But they end up
Sliming it.
sliming it up inside so that the honey becomes sour and unusable.
You get enough of them and enough of the wax moths and the bees will leave.
Yeah, that was happened to us. We had
They will
both.
abandon the hive.
Yeah, last
Yeah.
year before last, they all flew off.
So will you treat that with anything since there's so many beetles in there, or will you just leave that?
I'm gonna put more traps. I've got a whole bunch of those little CD cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're gonna
And
try
I'm
that
gonna
too?
do that. I wasn't expecting to have it this bad this fast.
Yeah.
Definitely they need treatment.
And is that stone underneath, Ralph? That's just to sort of take it to ventilate, is
Yeah.
it? Just to prop it up a bit.
Exactly. I have been planning to make some little tapered strips, put one strip on each side, and it's like everything else, priorities.
It's on the list.
The
okay.
stones
list
are
somewhere.
here all over the place.
And they're free.
Yeah, I've got a list like that.
I'm not focused.
I was explaining to Hollis this morning why you have it in the cover. The way this is stuck down here, if you didn't have the inner cover, it would mean the top cover would be stuck down.
All right. Yeah.
Alright, so the top cover would be almost impossible to get off.
Where's our smoke?
Okay, some beetles in here, but not as many.
Yeah, I can hear him.
These are a little bit more antsy.
Yeah.
They're
It's a
not
bigger
aggressive,
hive.
but they're a lot more active.
They come in my hand.
Alright. I'll have to take care of them later. In the meantime, Now, I think what I'm going to do here, this is a super. And I don't know if they've got any, let's start from the outside here. It looks like they're already loading up with honey.
Yep.
What is the light white? The white stuff they're making, is that
That
fresh honey?
white is brand new wax.
Oh, okay.
And apparently they're making this new wax with the sugar water I've been giving them, because I don't think there's enough.
Wow, look at that. Look at that.
Tons of honey.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I would. That can be happy.
Yep.
How come the bubbles in this one seem so much lighter and relaxed than the other?
It depends on where they get the,
That's a good looking honey.
and how
Yes, it
long
is
it's been
beautiful.
there. It usually comes the fresh growth on pine trees. Alright, so all of these are full. Every
Full of
one of
honey?
them. Every one of them.
Wow. Is that just from the sugar water you've been feeding them?
It's hard to say.
Okay. So you can't tell by looking or tasting it.
Usually, see, they got a bunch of dead beetles in here too, because they corner beetles, they corral them, and then the beetles can't get out, and they just starve to death.
And they make a trap with the propolis stuff?
Yeah, they corral them in with the propolis,
Alright.
and then they can't get out. So we are going to take, now one of the reasons I use these shallow supers instead of the mediums, I'm 75. Picking up a shallow super is about 35 pounds. Picking up a medium super is about 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Picking up a deep super is about 80 pounds. So you have to
No, it hasn't.
you have to go according to what you are able to handle. Charlie Parton to the long hives because he wasn't able to pick up these supers very easily. And if you have the long hive, you take them out one frame at a time.
Moly, look at
Oh, look at the honey. Oh, my
Great.
stars.
Where's my toast?
All right. Go down in the hoop house there, and hanging on the wall on the right side, there's a little roll of paper towels. Get that. Take your gloves off.
So what are you going to do with all that?
We're going to disperse it among our parents here. Get gloves off.
There's a bee underneath it.
Don't eat the bee.
Yeah. That would be painful. Oh, I forgot.
Capture that on video. That'd be a winner.
You will never live down.
Can't beat that. That's the precious honey you can get right there.
It's, thank you. It's very mild, whatever they made that.
Rouse girls make good honey.
Janet,
Huh?
come over here, girl.
I don't want to be that close to grouse girls.
Well, I want you to open your mouth.
It's good. Very mild.
I'm going to get a chew here.
As long as
They have been active all winter.
Do you have a super on top?
I'm trying to get it off without. Well,
girls.
She said she liked hot stuff. Leave the bee on.
Oh, they're trying to.
Now this one looks like it's ready
Get my
to
veil.
split. Are you going to split it or checkerboard it?
You have to have another queen,
Right.
or you have to have
Queen cells.
fresh eggs, or queen cells. Who's ready for the next
I
one?
am. I will be selfish.
I will be selfish.
So you're just going to checkerboard this.
I'm just going to checkerboard now.
But when you do a split, you're going to have queens ready to do the splits.
I'll either have queens or
Queen cells.
queen cells, and by mid-March, who else wanted some?
I'll try a bit. Yeah, please.
There's one bee there.
Oh yeah.
You know,
You don't need the extra protein
Great.
all right.
or the thing.
Now, give me a paper towel here.
If you've ever had a sting in your mouth, you don't want a second one.
No.
All right.
Wow.
Let's see. How am I going to do this? Did you get the smoker going again?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, smoke across the top of here. Try to get some of them off.
Yes.
Wow, it's delicious.
It's possible that this is sugar water, honey. It's hard to tell.
You didn't taste it.
Anybody here?
Boy, I can hear them. They ain't happy. That's fine way back here.
Somebody's here. Oh, they're coming after me.
Actually, what you're hearing is alarm. They're telling the rest of the hive that the forest is on fire.
Oh yeah.
Get ready to run, girls. It's a hot one.
One of the problems of having different manufacturers of hives
Yeah.
is this. There should be, when I set that hive on top of here, there should be 3/8 of an inch opening between the bottom of those frames and the top of these frames.
Right.
Right? Apparently there's like 3/4 of an inch opening.
That's why they built it up.
And that's why you have all this burr comb in here.
All right. Yeah.
Set that over there by that tree out of the way from us. Yeah, if you started out beekeeping and you bought everything you bought from Dadant or Rossman or whatever, you shouldn't have this kind of problem. Yeah.
Right there.
Bees on the bottom of that. Wow.
Now, these guys are going to get highly annoyed now.
Okay, now what are you going to do with this one? 'Cause on the other one, you checkerboard that top one. Now you're going to the bottom. So you
Yeah.
just seeing what the condition is?
They are so full of bees
Okay.
that the other one, the bottom was completely empty.
Yeah.
But this one is so full of bees that we have to start at the bottom and see what's in here.
Okay.
Those are full of pollen, right? You know what that is?
Yeah, the yellow stuff is pollen. And they're actually bringing in pollen now. Ouch.
Get bit.
Yeah.
Mark,
Yeah, when you crush them, they get unhappy.
Yeah, they do.
Signature behind so the other bees know to go after.
Oh.
Take a photo of that sheep.
I will have
Yeah.
my friends.
This is why I do not like plastic.
Oh, why? Because they build out too
They
far?
build out away from it. They don't go all the way down on the plastic. They build out away from it. Supposedly, you could take a brush and paint wet plastic on there. I mean, wet
Whack.
wet wax, and it would
Fool 'em.
fool them for a while again. All right, so no queen on there, and that frame is going to go to the junkyard.
It's a plastic frame. They didn't have it anything on this side, but the other side, they build out.
But it comes to this in my house like that, I'd be aggravated too.
Now what is that?
They've got honey on this side. And they're starting to put honey on this side.
Okay.
That's the James
I'm okay
call the
so
queen
far.
there.
I'm trying to hold my
I was asking Holly.
neck together here.
See, this J tool will pretty much pull up the frame without any hassles. Once you get a couple of frames out of the way, you can turn your frame sideways. Here, now look at this pollen on this bee here. You see the red pollen on there?
That's,
You saw it?
oh, that's acre.
That's the maple, yeah, the red maple.
I mean, the
Oh,
maple.
okay.
Oh, that's cool.
Red acre.
So is that an open one? Did you have foundation under there?
That's cool.
Pardon?
Did you have foundation on that one?
Yeah, but somehow it got messed up.
Okay.
So they're filling this thing up with honey.
That one's honey. That's not cap proof.
No,
No.
it's old honey. It's
Oh,
not
okay.
fresh honey. Fresh honey would have white
Okay.
capping on it,
Okay.
but the honey from last year is going to be brown because of all the traffic running over it.
Okay.
We got some real unhappy girls right now.
Oh,
You're flying over here that's aggravating.
All right, now we
Steel frame.
have on this frame a couple of drone brood.
oh, started.
You
Yep,
see
right
the
there.
big head
Yes.
sticking out?
Uh-huh.
Right in the middle.
Okay.
See on
Oh,
the
yes,
middle?
yes. They're capped up.
Yep, the
Yeah.
big heads are capped up. And you can see on this right section over here,
Uh-huh.
in the cells, there's some of that red pollen already packed into the cells there on the right side.
Okay.
They're about to make bread.
There's no queen on there?
No, not likely the queen. Well, with this many bees,
How can you tell?
there's not much point in trying to find the queen because it'd take too long,
Yeah.
and we don't want to be all day here. with
Okay,
this.
Ralph. With this many bees, wouldn't you need to do a split like right now on this?
Without a queen,
Well, I don't know. I'm
gotta
just
have a
saying.
queen.
Well, I understand that.
Or
But
If, if we
queen
had,
cell.
if we
if you had a
had,
queen, would you do a
if we
split
had
right now?
brand new egg cells
Uh-huh.
and eggs in the cells, I could probably do a split. But I want to checkerboard this
Right.
and see what happens with this hive. So
It's not just checkerboarding will keep it
give
from
me another
swarming.
empty box. Another box of empty comb.
So just checkerboarding it, even with this many bees, will keep it from swarming.
Hopefully. That's what I'm going to find out.
Yeah. Now, since there were drone cells in there, does that mean possibly when you start pulling those other things out, there could be some queen cells under there?
No,
No?
they won't start laying queen cells until the drones are active in the hive.
Okay. All right, that's good to know.
Yeah, that's good. All right, so what we're going to do is take out the other one.
Every other one.
I took out number 1. Leave the
Leave
Leave
two,
that
get
one.
3.
yeah. There you go. Okay. And I don't like this frame, but since they've got so
Well,
much.
you got one that's in the same shape that's going in, so don't worry about it. It's not hurting anything. They'll fill it in.
So since this thing is all out of shape,
Yeah?
I'm going to be putting it on the outside edge where there's more room.
Okay.
Move that frame out of the way until I get this one in. Now put it back right next to that one.
I know. So what you're going to do is make this 3 deep.
Possibly 4.
Okay. Wow.
We'll see what happens.
And that's a healthy hive.
I would say yes. I mean, they had some beetles up in the top, but not as many as the others.
Sheesh.
Now
Good
here's
grief.
brood. This one is loaded with brood.
There's the queen. I just saw her on that side.
Well, you're seeing some drones in here. There are some drones that are running around inside now.
Oh, wow. Can you pick out drones, David?
There's quite a few of them.
They're fat and no stinger.
The big fat ones.
Isn't the queen right there? Right in the middle now. She's right in the middle.
Yep.
She's right.
All across.
Yep, she's right in the middle.
All right, so we're going to
Gosh,
put
how
her
nice.
back in this box. So we know where the queen is. We want her in the bottom.
Oh, there's another red one with a red wing.
And then, let's see, we got an empty frame here.
Where's it?
Now this, if you look at it, you see the little gray stuff that's kind of like a mold growing on it?
Uh-huh.
Bees clean that up.
Okay.
Now another empty one. That one will do. I put frames like this in here occasionally just
Yeah.
to see what they'll do with it. And generally they will actually repair it. They clean it up and repair it.
Right. What's happened to that to get it in that state, Ralph? Is that...
That was a
You're gonna
mouse.
have to move one.
Oh, right. Wow.
Where did I lay the J tool?
It's under.
Okay.
Sorry, somebody texted me.
One of the things I like about the 9-frame spacer
Do you want me to touch it?
is that
Thank you.
you can lift up this, move it over, and set it on the next hump there.
Uh-huh.
And do the same to this one.
I can't see what everybody's saying. Sorry.
You can leave your tripod and just move over here.
No. I'm simultaneously
Talking to somebody else.
broadcasting and filming. So
Oh, live.
Yes.
Okay. All right, here we are, loaded with brood again.
Wow.
Both sides are loaded with brood.
Just gonna be on go for the green.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tell us about your site, Daniel.
It's Go for Green Living on
Well,
YouTube.
you got me.
Through your shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Pinch your head.
Go for green living.
Yeah, he's on YouTube. Tell us more about it.
Well, I had an empty for you.
I have a homesteading channel. It's all about self-sufficiency and doing things on your own, growing your own food, your own electricity.
Alright, I'm marked and they're coming around me now. Somebody take control.
Be good to check out.
I'm gonna get back.
I'll give you a card for you, I'll go.
Oh, good.
Please.
That's what I said, only 10,000 people would see y'all, so
Yeah.
that's nothing, right?
They leave a pheromone that says here's the enemy.
Think of all those valentines you'd get next year.
I see two of those little red pollen pouches right there on top of that rack.
Yeah, yeah, see it.
Yeah, laying right in the middle, right here on top. They drop the pollen.
So wow.
All right, this one is all honey and pollen. This one is going to be coming out to the edge. Okay, did we
And there's
have...
nothing there. What are
Well,
they doing on the very bottom of that thing?
You know, you could put it in the edge over here, Ralph.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry, I'll
That is it.
get one of these racks.
Yeah, you need one of those.
Yeah. Well, usually I put them on 2x4s, but that's much
Yeah,
better. That's much more stable.
Yeah, he doesn't really have 2x4s on his.
Alright, baby.
Yeah.
Spray your arms real good with the smoke.
Going after Gary.
I think you need some more fuel in there. All right.
Yeah, they've messed up this cone pretty bad too. See that side?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Alright. I'm marked too strong.
If I run across cones like that that are not really full, I will replace them immediately. But let's see now.
I'll look for you again.
You need
Do we have any brood in that box in back of me?
Tell you what, alright, thank you.
who knows?
Bees everywhere.
This is all honey.
Oh wow.
They're getting a little bit aggressive. Y'all getting buzzed by your veils? Yeah.
Need some more fuel on this smoke.
Yeah.
I'm looking for some more
So is brood more likely to be towards the middle,
Yeah.
and the
I
honey's
start from the edge
yeah.
Looking over there.
rather than trying to pull something up out of the
Yeah.
middle. I'm looking to see if there's any brood in the middle of this thing.
Janet? You staying up here? I'm going down. I became too much of an effective.
Wow.
It's your red top, Gary.
You stick around, they may follow you around.
What is that?
All right, see now here
Yeah, what is that?
is an excellent sign of overcrowding that causes swarming. All right. The bees have filled up the top 3/4
Right.
with honey on both sides. The queen has no place else to lay eggs,
Lay.
so they start.
What's on the bottom? Those caps.
Those are
is
the
that
drone.
drones?
Those are the drone. Yep.
Report a little of that smoke over this way. It's going. The wind's going the other way. But that's okay.
Smoke your hands up real good.
Ma'am.
Oop, don't do that. Hey,
Just leave it in the house when you go down.
don't do that. Don't mark me.
No, no, no. I'm no.
Here,
I'm
smoke
fine.
me over here.
Mine are elasticated. I can pull my hands inside.
No, mine are fine.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, that's
that
good.
was awesome.
You go over there.
Warning.
Yeah.
Oh, and this veil, it just comes in there and it stays.
Need some smoke.
Okay.
Okay, another frame of brood. And see, there's
There's honey in the corners.
yeah, that's all right. So next we put a brood in here. We got an empty one, now one with brood, and then an empty one again.
Oh, right.
Yeah, now the wind's blowing in our favor.
Now,
Oh, I'm not filming anything. Ooh, look at that.
Oh, they're all.
here's another one that they've messed up badly.
Now, why did they mess that up? Was there something in there?
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
This is a wax foundation. Now, sometimes when you put a wax foundation in hot weather, say
It'll
July
melt.
or August,
Yeah.
it will warp,
Uh-huh.
and then they don't have a straight guideline to follow. So they just fill in the whole area. All right. Okay, I'm going to have to leave this one in here because it will not fit into a regular spot. Now we need one more brood. Considering how long we have had this
Yeah.
open,
Oh, one got me on the finger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Do you-
buzzing me. Yeah. Stop it again.
consider how long we've had
Okay.
this open and how much confusion we've created. These are not
They're not aggressive.
That
they're not
aggressive.
that bad, okay?
Yeah, they're not happy, but
Yeah, I would have never dreamed we could have gotten away with this much. Thank you.
All right, that one is ready. We got that checkerboard.
right.
Great.
Okay. Let's see, we need an empty.
I'm sorry, but I just like your accent.
He just wants you to talk.
I like yours too.
Here. Yeah, see, when you see a section chewed out like this, that's mouse damage.
Oh, okay.
And that's why now, this is an old frame. It may be a couple of years old because it's got that
Yeah.
mossy color on it. But that's why I put these metal
Bar.
entrance guards on there.
Well, will that keep the mice out?
Yes.
Okay.
So is that smaller than a normal opening, Ralph? Narrows it down.
Yeah, it narrows it down to about a quarter of an inch.
Well, why in the world don't they just make the openings a quarter of an inch?
Well, they have those Boardman feeders that go on there.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thanks. Oh, no. They're not good.
One of the things you don't do.
Okay, now they get me.
All right.
David, your book is behind you. I'm just backing off.
That was a bad mistake.
Now they get me.
Yeah, they're a little upset now for sure.
I put a Boardman feeder on with water in it, and it just encouraged a load of visitors.
Yeah, I don't recommend Boardman feeders at all.
No.
Okay, because First of all, when the sun comes out and they get hot, they leak more than the bees. Spray on the top corner over here to,
So they won't crush it.
so I can set the box down.
And I left the Boardman feeder on with water over the winter and it shattered. The ice broke it.
Yeah.
That was a stupid mistake.
We're going to have a meeting one night. Everybody's going to write down all the mistakes they've made.
I'll need a roll of wallpaper.
And then we're going to stay there till about midnight.
Yeah.
All right, spray off this top over here now so I can put the next one. These two are checkerboard, completely checkerboarded already.
How do you remember what you have, Ralph? Do you keep notes of each hive? Because you've got a whole... They're
Yes.
all at different stages and...
Yeah, there's also apps you can get for your phone that are free. I mean, they have some that you pay for, of course, but they have a lot of free ones. Okay, so now up here, all we have basically is honey in these, but we're still going to checkerboard them
Guys are getting mean.
They are. Are you okay?
because that makes the bees think that they still need to have more stores.
You're putting just empty ones between,
Empty between a full one.
and there's no brood,
Just,
just honey.
well, actually, there's brood in this one.
Oh yeah.
The third chamber here
There's brood on the next one too.
has brood in it.
Is that brood?
And they've started queen cells.
I was going to say, where are those things coming down?
Those are the queen cells from swarming. From swarming, they will
On
generally.
that side, the ones that go down.
Yep. On the bottom.
Right, yeah.
Those are swarm cells.
So now that you see that, what are you going to do?
I'm going to mark this frame, and I'm going to check it in about a week. And if it has swarm cells on it, then I'm going to have to do a split.
Yeah.
All right, so today is what, the 18th? 17th.
17th.
So I got a queen starter cell there.
Show the camera. Did you see the star?
Did you see the starter cell?
They're after my hand because they got pheromone on it. Oh, wow.
All right,
Yeah, they're after my hand big time.
this and this
Smoke up your hand a lot.
are starter cells. And they make those
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
when they're
Getting ready.
getting ready for swarm season.
They're making a new queen.
We're getting pretty quickly,
I think so,
aren't we?
yeah.
Tomorrow morning.
Or this afternoon. We have time.
Y'all see?
I think we need to hop on.
Yeah.
Okay, we got brood, we got an empty frame.
Do it?
Let's see, the next one is brood. So we'll just take this one and move it on. All right, now, here's something else. Let me show you. Have you seen the frames where they get all chewed up with wax moths? You know? All right? This is one of those frames. It says wax moth 416. What that means is that I took a wax moth frame and I took a knife and I cut everything out except about a quarter to a half inch on the edges. So nothing was there. No wire, no nothing except the old wax around the edges.
Right.
And this is what the bees did with it.
Gracious, they rebuilt all of that.
Okay? So you don't have to burn those frames that have been,
Did you treat it by freezing it or anything?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you always treat, anytime you take frames out for more than a few hours, and you're going to store them for any amount of time, you always freeze them. All right.
I know.
Yeah.
This one already has some honey on it. This super will go on top of an empty super.
Okay.
Presumably the bees work from the top down.
Hope I didn't put it on.
And
No, I mean,
if
turn the
you
volume.
put this full super here, they think that's the top.
Okay, gotcha.
And they'll go down. So you put an empty one and then a full one.
But you could take that full one and just go spin it right now, couldn't you?
Oh yeah.
Live on Facebook.
Yep.
No, YouTube.
But
It's a lot of mess.
when I split this hive, now I may not even split this hive this year. I may just leave it and see what happens with it. Okay. I've heard of people putting 8 or 9 supers on top of a hive like this. Now, I've gotten stung twice.
Today?
Both times because I wasn't paying attention and I pinched one of the bees. So eventually you should be able to get to the point where you can pick up frames without pinching the bees. But we're a little bit ahead of ourselves here today. Alright, so I'm going to put this honey super back on there. This is definitely 35 pounds.
Mine's on the bottom of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of them on the bottom.
Alright, spray the bottom.
In the middle, too. Yeah, in the middle.
Yeah.
There you go.
Won't come off, Ralph.
I'll just ease it down real slow. They've got a lot of room in between. Remember all the
Okay, you just crush them.
burr comb that we...
Yeah, you crush them.
Yeah, the fur cone. Yeah.
Well, the thing is you can't save
Everyone.
every
Every
bee,
bee.
all right? Yeah, that one's done. Okay, they're a little annoyed there, getting crushed. They don't like that. All right.
What's your main entrance for? I've never seen one like that.
Okay, this is another, there's a hole in the back of this super. And there's a little electrical coupling for connecting electric pipes, half-inch pipes together. You see those on electrical items, but there's also a little plug that goes into that on electric boxes. So I drill a hole and I put that in there, and that gives ventilation also. And it also gives them another entrance. Besides having to go in the bottom, climb up 10 boxes, they can go into these boxes. So all of my supers have this adapter in it. And whenever I harvest the honey, I take the little plug and put it in there, and it keeps bees from going in and out robbing while I'm busy collecting.
Oh, okay, so it's not as big as that round thing.
This is part of the entrance reducers, the metal entrance reducers.
Okay,
Yeah, you know, if it was sitting down on the, and that slides in, almost all of my boxes have those now because I'm always switching them around. So, are there any questions other than what we've already gone through?
Anybody got any questions?
Do you put those bee non-return traps in? So the
If you
bees
only
will-
have, when I only had a couple of hives when I first started
Anybody got
out,
any questions?
I used to use the bee traps. All right. What you have to do with the bee trap, okay,
I made a bee class on
right,
we're learning how to checkerboard a hive to keep them
factory-made
from swarming
inner
because
covers
it's coming up on swarming
have a little
season.
slot instead of 3 holes like this, and that bee trap fits right into that slot. So if you've only got 1 or 2 hives, what you do is you take your super off, you put your inner cover down there with the bee trap, and you leave it for about 24, 36 hours. The bees will go down into the hive, you know, at night to cluster, but they can't get back out. So when you do take it off, there'll be very few bees, if any, in there. And then you can just brush those off. Well, I think we've pretty much covered checkerboarding. And like I said, the picture with the pyramiding, we could do that if you guys wanted to stay here long enough, but the pyramiding is very similar. The only thing is if you've got 5 frames or 4 frames of brood, you put 2 or 3 in the bottom and 2 directly above it, and then empty frames. Yeah, I do it usually over the July 4th weekend. By that time, this area is all grown up with goldenrod and wildflowers. I only mow this once a year after the first frost. And I let all the wildflowers grow in there. No, there's no need. It's just doing the same thing over and over. But when you've seen from a regular hive into a massive hive, and if you have a massive hive next year, make sure you got your suits on, you got your veils, you got your boots tucked in, you're all set. Okay? But generally you leave a hive like this open for any amount of time, and they will eat you alive. So this really is a relatively gentle hive.
Wow.
The other hive is absolutely gentle.
Yeah. And these are Italians, Ralph, are they?
These are all Italians, but they're survivors. Okay? They're,
Them frames in to get them over, and
I started feeding in December because we had that long spell of warm weather, and the bees were out every day looking for stuff.
Is that honey dripping on this?
Yeah. Yeah, that's because I set the box on top of this. Since I have these raised up a little bit, I put just a little weight just in case there's a heavy wind that it doesn't sail off. Yeah, this is not a heavy wind. We had heavy winds a few months ago. So here we go. I'm going to keep these hives. And at the end of the summer,
That was an awesome class.